What is going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. Here to share where I see the price of NIO going into next week. If you're new here, we drop one of these videos once per week. It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I normally get them out earlier, so it's coming out a little bit later today. I was out in the park with my family. The weather is great. It's fall weather. Definitely get outside, soak in the sun, soak in this weather before the winter comes. I recommend it, actually. I wanted to take advantage of that with the family. And that's what I ended up doing. If you're new here, not only do we drop one of these videos once per week, but we like to talk about where NIO goes from a technical perspective. We like to look at the velocity, the divergences, and the pullbacks. We like to look at not just NIO, but we look at Baidu, we look at BABA, we like to look at the Hang Seng index and the Dixie, which is what we're going to do today. So we're going to try and compete all the different puzzle pieces together just to see where things are going. Last week, we actually had a share offering where it had that, I call it a glitch candle. What I found very interesting, despite that glitch candle, it still remains above a trend line. I've been watching the velocity, and it still also remains above the velocity trend line. Now, it must be said here, if I can't remember if I set it up, but if I haven't already said it, if you're making a big financial decision, please do your own research and your own due diligence. I'm just a guy who loves the stock. I've been charting NIO for the last 2 years. Been wrong in the past before. NIO is really tough to try and nail down here. And I'm here to just to share where I see the stock going into next week. So where were we? We were above this trend line here. And I want to bring your attention to last year's rally. It ended when it broke. It also ended confidently when the velocity broke. Both of these things, it's not ended. Okay, so we are still alive and well, and you can actually see it's already like when it topped out, it just collapsed. This is not collapsed to me. This to me is looking more like a bull flag. It's almost like that same type of like speed that's it's declining at. Now, if I were to go into the 2-hour time frame, this is my thesis. I've been talking about this last week and every single week. What we want to find, and we're trying to find the bottom, is we're looking for 2 breakouts. And then we're looking for also, we're looking for the first pullback. 2 breakouts, and we're looking for the very first pullback after the second breakout. What do I mean by that? I'm going to draw it for you, and I'm going to look back to this last bull flag so you guys can see. I'll draw it on my velocity. I'll draw it on the chart so you guys can see as clear day. First breakout. Second breakout. All right. Now, here we are. This is our first breakout. Oh my goodness, it's a little bit glitchy. Here's our second breakout. We're in the process of still completing that. I had someone ask me on Twitter, how do I know if this is the, if you zoom in really closely, I had someone ask me, how do I know that this wasn't the first pullback after the second breakout? And I think the easiest way to know is your first pullback after the second breakout, and even the first breakout, is going to come after it breaks a trend line. It'll break that and give you a pullback. Now, if I were to draw a trend line on here, to me, this is still finishing its second breakout. So we're still above this second breakout trend line, and I think we're somewhere along the ways reaching the top here, if I were to compare where we are. Now, I will draw, and I'm just going to just erase my drawings here. I will point out to the fact that that second breakout, it actually looked like, oh my God, it's breaking out, and it gave you the second pullback. If it were to, rhyme and do something similar into next week, you could even see this thing continue to rise into next week, and up 5%, maybe 6%. We're at 650, and people are going, oh my God, it's breaking out. Just like right over here. Oh my God, it's breaking out, and you get that pullback. And to me, I want to bring you guys' attention real quick here. This last bull flag, where did it bottom? And we talked about this. If you go to my videos back in August, we talked about this. Where was it going to potentially bottom? It bottomed at the previous high right here. Okay. It just wicked under, and then boom, that was your bottom. I'm not even sure if that's a straight line. Let's do this tool. Yeah, look at that. That's just, it bottomed. Now, if we were to say the same thing, where is this going to bottom? What is that number here? What is this high? The high here is $5.49. I mean, like, it broke this high. It proved that this is strong support, and it pushed higher. So where's the next spot that it would make sense to retest? $5.49. Now, if I come back here, we already bounced once off that candle, but that was just in the middle of the night. It didn't even impact the velocity. I don't even count that. It was just like a whatever, a glitch. I call that a glitch candle. Okay. And where did we start running before the second breakout? Where did we bought it? It bottomed at 553. Interesting. Now, why is that interesting? Well, if on Monday, and I expect there'll be a little bit of continuation, we push a little higher, 640, 650, comes up, and it comes down, and it comes back, and we test this next high here zone, which is 549. Maybe it'll go below 548. Maybe it'll bounce there. It doesn't matter. Even if it just only bounces at 550, let's just say it does only 5. Well, actually, you'd want it to do 549. So let's just say it does this. It goes directly to 549. And then it goes. This is a lower low on the price. It would look kind of something like this. And that would be a higher high on the velocity. A divergence. That would be your first bullish divergence on the 2 hours. Where sellers on this run have not slowed down from a velocity perspective. They haven't given us a higher high. They did that on a lower low, so they're not tired yet. Sellers probably have it in them to push us down lower. But once you get that higher low and the price makes a lower low, that's like the last hurrah attempt where sellers are exhausted, and that's usually when you see that reversal come into play here. This would be your second breakout. That was your second breakout, and I expect it. That would be like poetic. It would be perfect, and it would be almost like computer perfect. How it's just taken out. The bottom ended up being this high. The bottom of this bull flag will be this high, and I would imagine this would freak out a lot of people. If you got that move, this is probably going to test your conviction. So keep your mind open to something like that, because seeing it drop 15% after it kind of rises, that could totally throw some people off. So keep that in mind. That's still a possibility. And then, of course, I'm targeting 3 targets to the upside. 750, 780, $8. 3 of them. And I'll explain why. It's a different reason for all 3 of these. Some of you guys might know why it's 750. Some of you guys might know why it's 780, and some of you guys might know why it's $8. But I imagine most of you guys won't. So I'm going to explain that. 750. It's getting messy here. I'm just going to erase. So remember those numbers. I'm going to erase everything. 750, 780, and 8. Good. Nice and clean. I like a clean chart. We're going to use the trend-based Fibonacci extension tool. And what do we get here? We're going to use the magnet tool here. Really, I want to get this nice and accurate. Right to the wick. Let's get it right to the wick there. And we'll get it right to the bottom here. Top to bottom, where do we have here sitting at the 161? 750. Notice where it rejected last time, 683. And perhaps this is a little cool down before it retests 750. So that's why I think 750 is an interesting point. It's an interesting level. It's not the only target. Now, remember the next number, you guys? Now, if you don't remember, I'm going to bring you to last year's high. Last year's high was 778. So I said, a nice round number is 780 because that would clear 778. And I had somebody on Twitter bring it up. I think his name was Jamie. I apologize if I got his name wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Jamie. He's pretty popular, big bull on Neo Bull. And he said, Laser, this is a bull, a cup and handle forming. And while I'm not going to say he's wrong, he could be right. And you can say, like, that's good enough for a cup and handle. For me, for a cup and handle, for the way I see it, it needs to play out, is it needs to take out the previous highs. And how would it do that? It would want to come above into 780. To me, 779, 780, that would be perfect. 780 is round. That's why I went with 780. So you get 780. That completes your cup. And then it starts the handle. You get your handle. And the reason, if you guys don't already know this, the reason why cup and handles are really, really, really bullish, they're one of the most bullish technical charts and patterns that you get in a stock, is you can take that measured move down. It moved down $4.79. That when it finally goes and breaks above after the cup, I mean, imagine if you got down from the cup. You're looking at another gigantic move that's potentially forming. And you want to know this is the inception part of the stock. If it were to do something like this, you're going to get the cup and handle inception. And I think if this is the dream scenario, you get the cup and handle and it boom, it moves up. You got another cup and handle here that would form like on a bigger time scale. And then you're going to get another cup and handle that would form on a bigger time scale. And then, of course, you're going to get another cup and handle. And you can keep doing this every step of the way. Right? Every step of the way. As you can imagine, it's these cups and handles will just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Cup and handle inception. But let's cross those bridges when we get there. Like that's like we're talking like long-term future. Right for now, my eyes are set just on the previous high, which is $7.80. Let's bring us back down to reality. I mean, I don't want to say the above is not reality, but what I meant by that is let's just cross the first bridge before we go on to the next bridge, which for me is 780. Now, the reason why I'm also targeting 8, and if you don't already know, it has nothing to do with the chart. It has to do with options. $8 is also a big psychological level. $8 is where there will be options that will be purchased on there. $8 is where a market maker would likely want to defend, and $8 is maybe where they would want to entice people to try and buy. So perhaps you might get an overshoot after this is done, and this overshoots into $8, and then you would see it kind of. Geez, I'm trying to do this nice here. It would go into 8. It would ride a little bit longer. Some people buy calls, and then it would just rug pull, and you would get your cup, or sorry, your handle. So I think things are looking bright on the 2-hour time frame. Just so that we're all on the same page, we are right here. This is our second breakout. That was our first breakout. One person on Twitter asked me, how do I know that this wasn't the first breakout? And I can't remember if I answered this because I've had to make this video a couple times. I screwed up my video where I stopped it in the middle. And I've said this like 2 or 3 times, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But let me answer this question. How do I know the second breakout is along the way? Is it will break below this trend line. So I wouldn't call this dip a pullback. And if you were to go back here, this dropped 12%. So if this goes to, like I said, 650, that's another big psychological number. It's a round number. You get 650. And it comes down and we get 549. How much of a drop did we get? That's about a 16. Relatively the same. Close. And I think that's going to be at play early in the week, Monday, Tuesday. We rise higher. It doesn't have to reject at this trend line as it didn't reject here. Notice here, we didn't reject, and maybe some people were buying right there. But I expect at some point either touch or above, back down. Once this thing is broken and you see this thing rounding, that's your time to consider getting into the play. Get into that play once you get that rounding. It's ready to rip and roll. So I remain very, very bullish for NIO. I'm expecting $7.50, $7.80, or $8. I really want $7.80. I mean, I won't say no to $8, but I mean, I understand that you might only get $7.50. We cross those bridges when we get there. I do believe a big move is forming here. And we did break above the 200-day moving average late into last week. or I guess this most recent week. So that's looking really, really good. Let's quickly show you again here. If I haven't shown you on this chart, there's your first breakout. First pullback. Yeah, there's your first pullback. And this is going to be your second. This right over here is going to be your second pullback. Oh, second breakout, by the way. And it's completing. So I do believe we're like, if we were comparing to last bull, we're right here. It's looking good. I'm looking at really, really good. The only thing that you're going to want to look out for, truthfully, is I guess where things kind of break is if you lose 549 a little bit. Things get a little bit scary when you lose that amount. Just as like we never lost this zone on the bull flag. Notice how it held here. We really want this to hold here. That's what we want to see hold. We want to see that hold. Comes, taps there. It holds. Woof. Do you know how amazing that's going to look? That's going to look so good. I want to actually just play devil's advocate for just 1 second before I jump into Baidu and Baba. Okay. Devil's advocate is, and we're going to need our fib tool to really hammer home the point. So 1439 is the IPO high. 116 is the IPO low that it hit. And if we were to look at here, 550 and 596, if it breaks down potentially lower, maybe it wants to come to this high, which is around 530. Or maybe it wants to take this glitch candle out at $5. I'm going to get a little worried that it's looking like this. Because now that's bringing you to that $5 level. I'm worried. I'll be damn confident you're going to get that big move like this, but I'll be worried that it'll just reject. I don't think that's in play for a number of different reasons. There's a lot of things that are different. They're totally different structures. The velocity looks totally different. And I think it's time for NIO to try and make that continuation and that bigger move. But that is something to factor and something to consider. Losing my train of thought here. Baidu. I'm gonna before I'm finished this video, I'm gonna come back to NIO and I'm gonna sum everything up. But I want to touch up on everything here, so this video doesn't end up too long. I felt like I rambled a little too long on NIO. Baidu cup and handle would get complete right around 120. It hasn't quite hit that. It's 114, another $6. And if you actually zoom out a little bit, we've got this trend line here. I mean, if we're going with the cup and handle theme, that would be perfect. So it rises up a little bit here. And if we were taking a look at the, let me delete these, delete that. If I was looking here at the top of where that rally is, I could see it rising a little bit higher and declaring a top and giving you like that cup. Sorry, the handle. There's your cup and handle for Baidu. I do see it going higher, but I think at some point you're going to get that pullback, and it's looking pretty good. Baba has a lot of room. I want to bring to your attention here the velocity in the 24-hour time frame. I've never done this before, but I've been trying to pay attention to this a little bit more. You want to know what I found very interesting on the 24-hour time frame? I'm looking at the velocity top right there. Top. Where are we? Nowhere near the top. And I have this beautiful parallel channel that's drawn out here that shows that we can actually potentially push out and past towards 190, 195. Potentially, right? Maybe, just maybe it wants to break above that and just and skip a channel and go like ballistic up into 250. But it looks good. And if we were to stick to the cup and handle, there's your cup. It already took that high out. Notice it took this high out. So if it wanted to come back down, that's also, I'm only saying that not because I'm bearish on Baba, but to manage your expectations, as that could be a possibility. But the way Baba tends to go is it tends to just go vertical. It doesn't really like it goes vertical. You don't really get the bull flags. Maybe it'll be different this time, but you might just get. Let me just erase some of those. It might just be like vertical again, vertical, and then it just cross that bridge. It looks good. It looks good is what I'm trying to tell you. And when I look at the velocity, it looks like it's got way more room to move higher. Hang Seng Index. Again, top. Notice the top was here. Top, it overshot it like crazy, but it broke above that. And of course, you reach the top. Here, it danced there for a while. Notice we're above that high, but the velocity hasn't gone. It's been consolidating. The velocity hasn't given us that oomph move, that explosive move to the upside for 4 months. Something big is going to happen. And we're already at the top of resistance here. And so something tells me it might actually run all the way up into like 30,000. And 30,000 is a pretty big move. And if we're going to go with the cup and handle theme, and I mean, you already have a cup and handle here, by the way. Like cup and handle inception. It broke this cup, right? Which technically this was a cup. And you can see it's already broken out. When you measure that, look at that. It's nearly the top. So something tells me 30,000 is in the cards here, guys. Something big. The velocity hasn't gone. It's been steadily rising. I think it's this major accumulation. And then you're going to get that big oomph blow off the top. And you're going to see something big. That's going to be nice for NIO. It's going to be nice for all Chinese stocks. US dollar. I'm going to go to the weekly time frame. Something new here. We're going to look at the velocity. It's at a critical level where it's bottomed. Pay attention here. In fact, all of these bottoms here, going from here where it's kind of in that range, bottom, and we got to move. The velocity is kind of, it can basically oversold territories, rip, oversold territories, rip, oversold territories. There's bound to be a rip. And if you look way closer on the 24-hour time frame, it's a big hot mess. Let's clear out all of these drawings. It's been consolidating for 5 months. It hasn't made a big move from like 101 to like 97, a $4 range. That's like one of the longest, most consolidated moves it's made in a long time. And I do think at some point in time, this thing is going to want to make its move higher. It's going to want to squeeze. It's going to want to push higher. And generally, when the reason we look at the US dollar, we look at Dixie, is when the US dollar goes up, the appetite for risk assets goes down, and you generally see a correction across the market. That's just typically how that works. So I want to go wrap this up into NIO and do a quick summary here. We never did it for the velocity here. And you'll notice the top of that rally, it hasn't quite hit it, although we did hit a top here. But I'm wanting to say these are totally different here, and I do believe there's room for this to come higher. And it would make sense, in my opinion, there's room for it to go higher. There's another argument you could say, like, hey, maybe it's hit top and it's ready for that pullback. If that were the case, when we get that pullback, we will know. If we get a pullback and it comes down to 5, your next move probably is a rejection at around 6. And it's, I mean, you can just look right here to the left. But I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it. Even after this massive dilution earnings news, look how strong it's holding. That's generally, in the past before, you would see it tumble like a straight line, and it's doing great. So keep an eye out for 549 for the bottom of this second breakout pullback. That, I think, would be, if you can get 550 as an average buy-in, that'd be golden. That would be golden, like 549. Also, I don't think we're at the top of this rally yet. So I'm trying to really sum this up here. If I were to draw it out, up, down, and away you go. So that's it. That's what I'm actually seeing going into next week. I do see a little bit higher, but I see another pullback, and I think that last pullback will be time to go long. That sums up my weekly video for the analysis, by the way. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I am super tired. This is my second or third time having to re-record it. I was actually pushing the unrecord button, so I apologize if the energy was low or if I felt low energy. It wasn't because I'm low energy or I'm not excited. I'm super excited going into next week. This is like my third time trying to record it because I messed it up so many different times. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube video. It helps me out a lot. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Cheers.